Hey, this is called Actual Jesus. It's long, so I'm going to try to read quickly for those of you who'd rather listen than read. Actual Jesus. I'm in a wonderfully rainy Southern California, learning from a hotel shuttle driver that he has no idea what I'm talking about because he hasn't been on social media in over 2 years. I gasp and look at him like he's magic. He is a veteran and a family man, now too focused on his move up the ranks to management from housekeeping at this hotel to waste that kind of time. I feel a surge of ambition to join him in both forbearance and ambition, but I managed to let that pass. I had to share my celebration with somebody, so here I am. The video stand off the TSA line where I used to flip Christy Noem off on the regular as she yacked was dark today. This was in the Ontario airport this morning, not Portland. Because of my hard-wasted time in the social media vortex of Blue Sky or Reels, I had known that airports like Seattle, LAX, and Chicago had all refused to run Noem's video, where she's blaming that Democrat shutdown for TSA delays. This courageous act of noncompliance quickly rolled through Albany, Charlotte, Cleveland, Phoenix, 24 airports last count. SFO was Noem-free too as I came through. These aren't rebel entities, these airport officials. They're just sticking with the rule of law against blunt, dumb, crazy eyes power. I'm holding that dark, silenced screen with me all week. Who are we to be less courageous and more silent than an Ontario airport admin? Stay home harder than a Buffalo, New York security manager? Be more nihilist than a Cleveland Hopkins board member? Everywhere we see any courage in any form of noncompliance, let's breathe it in and use it. This contagion of small courage is how I wound up in a true horrorscape yesterday of not one but two pop-up Spirit of Halloween hellholes in not one but two dying malls. As I approached the first, a gray-haired lady on a walker came gasping out. I don't know about Happy Halloween. Those costumes scared the shit out of me. She pieced her way up onto a waiting senior center shuttle, still shaking her head. A father-daughter pair I'd seen walking in moments before came hustling right back out, hand in hand. Too spooky, he said, relieved to be out. Yeah, his young daughter laughed and agreed as they left. I forged in with a face of pure wince on. Long years ago, I had ejected right back out of one of these travesty stores with our jangled kids. They had looked as blown out as the walker lady. Plastic blood everywhere and sexy nurse shit right next to kids' costumes. The air was filled with canned screams and the smell of instant garbage hanging by the bag for sale on temporary walls. That creative scavenging burst of dressing up that had ever given Halloween any of its non-candy fun was inhaled by a giant plastics factory somewhere, expanded to serve adults on the make too, and spit back out into America's wasting mallscape. But here I was at the Spirit of Halloween. I, like others, too face-locked to social media in these bucking times, had spotted the small courage and devastating brilliance of the Portland frog, heir to the Portland chicken soup. This most delightful figure of devastatingly asymmetric defiance was playing the best protest card possible outside the Broadview Ice Facility. The Portland frog inspired first 5 other tribute frogs. They said to a reporter who asked them what the meaning of it was, simply, to support that guy, the first frog. Then, inflatable cute animals and cartoon figures of every kind showed up and danced. This all happened as a big, stupid table of the world's dorkiest authoritarians spoke of Antifa terrorists and rampant lefty violence. At my first stop, the inflatable frog costume was long gone, and all of the cuter adult inflatable animal costumes you see daunting ice on social media were gone too. Sure, I could be a gigantic penis, or inflatable jar of cheese balls that said balls deep on it, or some other truly raunchy American nightmare. But I had to go to the next teetering ghost town of a mall to get my inflatable Antifa penguin and an Antifa Dachshund, however you say that, for my husband. So, it remains love, hate, and in-out on the social media. I wouldn't know to be so happy about Noem's silencing and the airport's courage without it. I wouldn't know of the Portland frog's exquisite fear-puncturing effect on the specter of ice and the simple solidarity of his fellow frogs without it. I wouldn't be heading inflatably out against Kings this Saturday without it. But I still envy the family ambition and focus of the fast-tracked hotel management guy gamely filling in on my shuttle drive. Social media is like the spikes across window ledges in cities. It prevents your brain, that poor fluttering pigeon, from ever quite landing and can leave you feeling quite dismantled. Recently, I was taking in some news, importantly, but then slipped and impaled myself on those pigeon spikes of Love Has No Age, Monaco. These are endless clips of short old billionaires and their mini-skirted off-the-shelf boobs 20-somethings. Both the old billionaire and the stiletto-heeled tall chick have to climb hard out of these low-slung, wing-doored supercars. I love the willful inconvenience and discomfort of extreme wealth. They inch forward in 0 to 60 in no seconds money cars, wait in a traffic line to get there, then wait for a uniformed somebody to open the doors, but the handles are impossible. Then grasp outstretched hands to get hoisted so awkwardly to vertical from these too small, too low seats, and then totter toward the Hotel Paris. She's on 5-inch heels trying to grab her crotch-length skirt downish, while he's painted up in white cool guy stretch jeans, but is just old. If I had $1 billion, I would stay home and maybe have a nap. I do then flip away from Monaco geriatric glitz over to something newsier again. My whole mind is like dirty eyeglasses, but still I do see the footage piling up from first Los Angeles, then Portland, then Chicago, where regular people are just not complying with a ridiculous federal invasion of knuckleheads. When I see footage of yet another American citizen, see how ordinary that shock becomes and how fast. And this time a white journalist, pinned face to asphalt by 2 thug pigs, masked in squashy jeans and no ID, I think back with a familiar shame. I think back to when that exact scene was shown again and again, but of black Americans pinned face to asphalt by thug pig police, year by year, state by state. I recall reading then, tolerate racism, prepare for fascism. Man, was that true, and man, was I dumb. Yes, I knew it was tragic and wrong, and I wanted it to stop. And yes, I believed the part about fascism to be true. But not yet, and not for me yet. I know it's gross, and it's embarrassing to say out loud. It's the way plenty folks quietly used to think climate was, yes, real, but for 2050-ish, and for island communities. But not for me yet. It was more of a righteous cause to be fought hard now, yes, but it was feeling bad for others. A lot of the fight was on intellectual territory, and it kept feeling like the reality might be much later. How dumb again. It is not comfortable, but it is good to mark old personal crimes of oblivion in order to know just how vast one's adapting capacity remains today to protect that not for me yet comfort. The failure to be more now and more actual Jesus is the oldest road to this latest hell. By more actual Jesus, I mean to feel and to remember the asphalt-pinned black man as yourself. He knew the world as it is and was coming. The same tolerate racism, prepare for fascism warning is of course true and so routine you could yawn if there were yawns for horror for crimes against immigrants, of misogyny, anti-Semitism, and the violent bigotry of all kinds that dehumanizes this or that category of humans for power. We white people, the dumb ones like me on our shrinking islands of white, mostly did not and still don't really get what no rights and no safety against a fascist state feels like, no matter how dorky the fascists are. We need to be taught wisdoms like, be calm when the unthinkable arrives, and be as courageous as you can, by Timothy Snyder, because we didn't grow up in it. What if we felt and kept remembering the innocents disappeared to the El Salvador prison, heads shaven and beaten, as ourselves, before it is ourselves? What if we feel and keep with us as ourselves the now 5th boat of missile-sunk and murdered South Americans off of Venezuela, before it is ourselves? See the fired Epstein prosecutor Maureen Comey and indicted Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan as ourselves before we are mutely hustled away. Feel and recall the arrested mayor of Newark and pinned U.S. Senator Padilla as ourselves before we are in zip ties for doing nothing but being ourselves in our own homes, on our own streets, in our own jobs, so far away. Feel and recall the death-threatened Texas Dems leaving their own homes to protect country as ourselves before we flee our homes in actual fear. Know the fear of the shot-at CDCers and their dead protector as ourselves today before we are mourning our very own and dropping down behind our own windowsills. Take into your heart the shot dog of the Minnesota Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband as your own dog gone. I'm not saying feel any of this for their sake in pity. I'm saying feel it to know and live in your own actual truth, not in a delayed state of deflection. Authoritarians must live only in the present, no history and no future. If you scroll only, no action, then you have no history and no future. If we can't find more true, actual Jesus, love thy neighbor, to know thyself, empathy, like the 5 frogs having simple solidarity with the first frog, then we miss out on the community consciousness that makes the fight so clear. I want to learn how to metabolize the darkness today, as humans have for all of the centuries. I want to grab hold of our mortal selves today and figure out how to live in vigorous, creative, and asymmetric opposition to all things shitty together. Meanwhile, the next move of this dorky fascist wannabe takeover is to squeeze the pipes of the internet plain shut. So I guess I'll try to manage the brain-shattering mix of it as best I can for as long as we may have it. When I do quit, it will be like the drunk who's not drinking only because he finally fell over. Thank you.